And moving towards the Twin Cities, Minnesota's Attorney General is suing Texas governor requesting the state extradite an ICE officer back to Minnesota. Today, Attorney General Keith Ellison announced this lawsuit, saying that Ellison, the Hennepin County attorney, and a governor's office sent letter to Governor Greg Abbott to extradite Christian Castro. Officials are wanting Castro back in Minnesota so he can stand trial for allegedly shooting through the door of a North Minneapolis home back on January 14th during Operation Metro Surge. Court documents say the gunshot hit an injured Venezuelan man inside the home back in May. The Hennepin County's attorney office charged Castro with 4 counts of second-degree assault and 1 count of falsely reporting a crime. Castro was arrested and is still detained in Texas, but Ellison said Texas governor has not signed the extradition order papers. AG Ellison said extradition is an administrative task and is written in the Constitution.
I should never have to file this lawsuit, but I have done so today to protect the Constitution, the rule of law, Minnesota's rights, and the people of the state of Minnesota, and, of course, the fair administration of justice.
Now, Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moretti says Texas laws allow someone detained can be released 90 days after arrest if a trial is not ready. That deadline is set to happen next week, which could cause authorities to release Castro. Ellison and Moretti hopes this lawsuit causes the federal courts to act so the Texas jail does not release Castro.